Welcome in and welcome back to the Marshall Experience. Glad to see everybody. I'm glad to see everybody in the comments. Um, Something today, right? So we're getting into got done doing the rookies. Okay, so we got to move on from the rookies a little bit here. Let me adjust my mic here a little bit. There we go. Maybe you can hear me better. So tonight we're not going to focus on the rookies, right? The rookies are going to be somewhat included if they are guaranteed starters, right? We could mix them in with a veteran starter or a veteran quarterback at this point. So tonight we are going to be talking about all 32 teams, right? All 32 quarterbacks, starting quarterbacks. How are they ranked in fantasy? How they rank, where we obviously rank them, not necessarily where ESPN does or anything. We rank them and think that how this upcoming season is going to transpire. On top of that, we are going to be doing 8 bold takes. Okay, 8 bold that might tickle your mind a little bit, or it could really get the gears going. So again, tonight, no rookies, right? We're going to get the surefire guys that are going to lead your for you, and we're going to 1 through 32. So stick around and take some notes. So before we get started, shout out Sports Lounge Media, somebody close to our heart. That's who we're powered by. That's who keeps us going. So big shout out to them. If you have not followed them, if you have not subscribed, highly suggest doing so. Big things on the horizon. Can't really give out too much, but definitely want to be a part of the journey and definitely say that you were from the beginning. So again, big shout out to this. You. Thank you. Everything you do, the mogul brand. Let's keep the fight going. So. We will jump right into this, guys. We're not going to waste any time here. Again, real quick recap. 32 quarterbacks, right? Where do we rank them? 1 through 32. So here we go. The man leading the pack, right? Josh Allen. I think that at 1, Josh Allen is the safest bet. He's still the same cheat code. For the last 6 seasons, Allen was the top fantasy quarterback in 2025. And that was with playing just 1 snap in week 18 to cheaply extend the consecutive start streak that he has. His on-target percentage and completion percentage bounced back to career last year, but those were inflated by throwing year. Allen's 7.1 yard average target depth was a career low, as a career high 65% of his attempts were less than 10 yards downfield, and a career low 10% were only traveled 20 plus yards. So not a lot of deep action last year. That's basically what that breaks that down to. Not a lot of wide receiver help, right? I mean, that kind of explains me. The Bills, again, definitely lacking options outside of Khalil Shakir. I think that, what does the guy have to do, right? Averages 215 per game in the passing production, which is ranked 20th, middle of the pack, right? And 59 rushing yards, making him the only at least 500 yards in each of the last 5 years. So shout out to him for that. We also led the position in rushing downs with his 5 clear of second place, his 3rd consecutive season with at least a dozen rushing touchdowns, and then a league high 8 of them were on back sneaks, which again should be a healthy dose. Nothing's really changed in that department. So with offensive coordinator Joe Brady, obviously now as the head coach, the offensive structure won't change much, but I think that as long as Allen's pass attempts neighborhood of the 500, his rushing ability should do the rest. The Bills traded obviously to help out with that, help alleviate that. And while he won't necessarily take the top off the defense, he'll at least give Allen another reliable pass catching wide receiver to help alleviate that. For me, Allen's never been a guy that I can say have an elite guy. Because even his catcher's disappointed again in 2026. Healthy after offseason foot surgery and hasn't finished lower than a quarterback 2 in fantasy since 2018. One thing that we preach here at Marshall Experience is consistency, right? We've talked about that all the way back in the beginning, right? Consistency is the key, and Josh Allen is there's nobody better than that in that department. So, number 2, right? So these top 5 are league winners. Okay, that's how we classified them. Number 2, Lamar Jackson. Okay, in my opinion, he has the highest weekly ceiling when healthy. Okay, injuries and the Ravens' general offensive regression spelled doom for Jackson last season, in my opinion. He kind of at some point took a step back a little bit, right? He missed 4 games with a hamstring and back, and then played hurt through at least a few other games that we could probably write off the schedule. Averaging just 23 pass career low as a starter. Jackson's passing efficiency was stable, and he was still an effective downfield thrower. 6 touchdowns to 0 interceptions on throws, 20 plus yards downfield. So that's for Lamar Jackson last year. The biggest drop off though was in his running. Actually, fair enough. Funny enough, where he goes in attempts at 5 and yards per game at 26.8. Obviously with the leg injuries, the ankle, hamstring, those kind of things in the run game, right? The red zone problems continually in the red zone. They were ranked 27th in red zone. See last year, among other issues, the team cleared out of the coaching staff. Hired defensive-minded head coach Jesse Minter from the Chargers, and then offensive Doyle. Not sure who he's from, but who he turned. Declan Doyle. He helped. It was last season with Ben Johnson, I believe. So that's promising in itself. He did not call the plays. Ben being behind that for a year could be interesting for the Ravens. The Ravens lost, obviously, Pro Bowl center Tyler Linderbaum, but addressed offensive line concerns of the draft. Penn State guard in the first round, Vega, and then they also drafted wide receivers Jacoby Lane and Elijah Surratt, who we have talked to provide some badly needed size alongside Bateman and Flowers. As for Henry and Andrews, and Isaiah Likely, Patrick Ricard followed John Harbaugh to the Giants, and they don't obviously have obvious replacements back in Baltimore. So I'm assuming that, if as long as Doyle doesn't wilt in front of us as a first-time play caller, kind of like Kevin Patullo did, and good health all around, then Jackson honestly could be primed for a bounce back season. So number three here, in my personal opinion, is getting a lot of disrespect. Okay, on sleeper in some of these rankings that I've seen, Matthew Stafford. Matthew Stafford for me is been ranked way too low. I understand some of it, the age, the injury concern. I get some of it, right? Stafford entered last season with significant injury concerns, but he only stayed healthy but he not only stayed healthy for a full season. He also was named the MVP and finished the career high quarterback 3 in fantasy. Okay, Stafford led the league with 4707 in passing yards and a career high 46 touchdowns, capitalizing on volume and accurate downfield passing. Okay, he had 597 attempts, third in the league, and his most per game at 35.1 since 2021. Of those, 12%, which was ranked 6th, traveled. Sorry, I lost my spot. Traveled at least 20 yards downfield, and his highest deep passing rate as a Los Angeles Ram. So obviously adding Devontae Smith, Puka Nacua, the running back room is pretty decent. I think taking that off was or adding that to the repertoire per se was able to unlock a different Matthew Stafford. He led the league in both deep attempts at 73 and completions at 30, posting a league high 10 with 18, and that was ranked 2nd. Okay. Despite all of that, Stafford topped out at quarterback 3 because he's nothing on the ground, right? We as fantasy owners have to understand that putting Matthew Stafford at the tippy top is not logical with these guys up here like Josh Allen, Lamar, Jayden Daniels, Jalen Hurts, the guys that have the both ability on both sides of the ball, right? Those are the fantasy gems. Now, I'm not going to take a lot away from Matthew Stafford because, again, in my head, my personal opinion, besides Joe Burrow, nobody has a better passing game than Matthew Stafford. Again, Sean knows how to unlock that offense. And with, again, Devontae Adams coming back, Puka Nacua, they draft in the offensive line to help protect Stafford, to give him a little bit more. I think that it just opens up for a repeat. I mean, nothing has changed, right? I mean, if nothing has changed, you can't tell me that he can't repeat last year. He can absolutely repeat 4,700 yards and 46 touchdowns. I believe that. Does everybody else? Number 4 here. We're going to try to start getting into some more familiar faces for everybody else. Jayden Daniels. We have Jayden Daniels at number 4. Obviously, pretty self-explanatory. Elite rushing upside when healthy, right? Young, promising. After a brilliant rookie season, Daniels' highly anticipated second season was destroyed by injuries, right? We all know that if you watch football. He played for just 4 full games and only 2 that were injury-free, as obviously things like, I think, wrist, knee, hamstring, elbow injuries really took their toll. A dislocated left elbow, his non-throwing arm, that's a big thing. That's a big thing to know. And finally sent Daniels to the IR for good in December. Okay. While his passing and rushing efficiency declined from his rookie year, Daniels at least had enough rushing and a touchdown production to be top 16 fantasy for each of his 6 appearances with 40 plus snaps. So when he is on the field, again, when he is healthy, the production is there. The Commanders could limit, a lot of people are saying, well, they could limit his rushing upside due to his health. But I don't think that would be a deal breaker fantasy. Okay, because even a 25% reduction from 2024 numbers in both designed runs and scrambles would put him in about 110 rush attempts over a full season. At, say, 5.5 yards per rush, which I think is healthy for a quarterback. He'd have more yards at 605, and do the math yourself, than any quarterback had last year. We already talked about Josh Allen. He led the league. If you were to cut down Jayden Daniels 25% from his first full season, he still would knock out Josh Allen as the leader. It's possible. The bigger issue for me is the supporting cast. With Terry McLaurin, Scary Terry, only reliable receiving weapon, Washington absolutely needed Antonio Williams. We've talked about him a few times. Might be the steal of the draft, especially in fantasy volume-wise. Right? Luke McCaffrey did not work out. Antonio Williams, noted for his route running and slot work, could at least be a factor in the passing situation. So, the Commanders also signed the tight end Chigoko from Tennessee. He still runs a 5. He's at 6'3", 230, and should fill that role back up nicely. That really benefited Daniels from the 2024 season. The slim build. I get some of the improvements, but for me, I think that he is a rushing upside. If you were just to cut it back from what his first full season was, guys, 25% would. That to me is kind of crazy. So, Jalen Hurts, a lot of shade on this one, right? New toys to play with. In my opinion, it's just the touchdown rushing equity that's still there, until proven otherwise for me. The tush push wasn't as operated last year as it normally is, but from those games, right? I mean, there was still fantasy production from his rushing game. Hurts finished as as fantasy's quarterback 8 last season for the second consecutive. So 2 top 10 performances. This time he couldn't blame injuries. He couldn't or a lack of pass attempts, in my opinion. He gained more than 4 pass attempts per game from the previous year, helping him throw a career-high 25 touchdowns, even though his per-pass efficiency otherwise declined. He threw deep at a 4-year high, posting a 9-yard average target depth, which was ranked 5th. We just talked about Matthew Stafford there. As a league high, 13% of his attempts went at least 20 yards downfield. 9 of those were touchdowns, second ranked, and 857 yards, which was 3rd. So again, a lot of those, do we see that go away with A.J. Brown going away? I don't think so, because if you think about it, Devontae Smith caught a lot of those too. His rushing, however, dropped by about 20 yards per game compared to his 3-year average from 21 to 24. With 8 touchdowns, which was ranked 4th, being his fewest ever as a full-time starter. Again, we talked about the tush push wasn't as effective as it was in previous years. It was a 63% conversion rate versus 83 most other years. And Hurts had a career low in 7.6% and just didn't get out, didn't get outside the pocket very often. The Eagles' offensive just as a dysfunction, right, was another issue. And to the end, new offensive coordinator now, a little bit more promise. I've read into Sean Mannion. He has promised Jalen Hurts a little bit more, a lot more play action. So that way he could target the intermediate level that, I personally think that Jalen Hurts is very good throwing over the middle. But when he has to quickly, I think makes the wrong decision sometimes. The other big issue is the expected trade of A.J. Brown, right? Eagles drafted their A.J. Brown replacement per se in the 20th overall pick this year. But Lemon mostly played in the slot in college, and we have to know that, but won't, and I don't think can match A.J. Brown's downfield impact just yet. Likely leaving, I think, Devontae Smith to handle a little bit more of the deep route. I do think Mekhi Lemon, I would compare him to like an Amon-Ra in the route running ability. I think this is a potential big year for Jalen Hurts, and let me explain why. New toys, Dallas Goedert. Sean Mannion likes to run the 2 tight end system like he did in Green Bay. So now you have Stowers, Goedert, Lemon, Devontae Smith, Barkley, a couple offensive line pieces there. Maybe we're not done, But I think that this is going to be a prove-it year for Jalen Hurts, right? Jalen Hurts has to come in here and prove that he deserves another contract extension, that I am not another Carson Wentz situation. You just didn't draft my replacement. I'm here to play. I'm here to lead us to the promised land. If you can't do that. But I do, my guy. I think that he finishes as a top 5 quarterback. I think the passing numbers you will see go up. I think he'll have a career high in passing touchdowns. We may see a decrease in the rushing. But again, for me, until proven otherwise, 8 rushing touchdowns, I'll take that every fantasy year. Now we're going to go into what is called elite quarterback. Okay, the elite quarterback 1 tier here. Number 6. Somebody that I don't think is everybody else is necessarily high on. Okay. But per se, right? Drake May at number 6. Okay. Massive breakout, in my opinion. May's first full season as a starter went better than I think Patriots fans even imagined. He finished quarterback 2 in fantasy, was 2nd in MVP voting, and took New England to the Super Bowl. Okay? May's league leading 72% completion percentage was the 6th highest in NFL history. All the more impressive considering his average target depth was 9.1 yards. Okay? The highest was a week 6 matchup at nearly almost 80%. Very nice. Plus yards downfield at the 5th highest rate in the league, 37%. Here, give me 1 second. I got to plug. I messed up. I got to plug my laptop in, folks. Give me 1 second here or we're going to die. Oh, save the mic. There we go. Okay. Back to Drake May. Again, fifth highest rate in the league, 37%. Also ranked third in completion percentage on the attempts of 20-plus yards. He led the league with 8.9 yards per attempt. Solidify ahead of second place Sam Darnold at 8.5. In addition to finishing fourth in passing yards at almost near 4,400 and third in touchdown passes at 31. He was fourth among quarterbacks with the rushing yards, 450, adding 4 scores. I think last year he benefited from an easy schedule, however. I think that's where you will see this small decline from quarterback 2 to quarterback 6. I don't think that is a big drop-off. I think that is a very respectable drop-off. Even in the fact of what could be with A.J. Brown. I mean, what you add A.J. Brown to last year's offense, and we're talking about a different offense completely. So, sorry, I'm trying to figure this out. That's not turning. Give me 1 second. Sorry. Why are we not charging? There it goes. Great. All right. So, again, with the rumored AJ Brown trade, that would help mitigate likely regression for Drake May in that manner. Not only in terms of passing stats, but I just think Patriots in general, right? If they don't end up with Brown, they'll essentially be giving May the same group of lackluster wide receivers he won from last year. I would swap out obviously Stephon Diggs for Romeo Doubs, but again, it's just the same repertoire there, right? I think that May is good enough and mobile enough to maintain his place among the top 5 fantasy quarterbacks around this area. And I think he's obviously a solid body. So number 7, we'll go to Mr. Joe Burrow. Again, the passing volume, he's the master monster, whatever you want to call him. Elite weapons all the way around. Chase Higgins, Chase Brown. If they got a really even better, but I think at least top 10, top 15 wide receivers, 2 of them, then maybe a top 10 running back. Rankings later, we haven't really looked at them, but regardless, a lot of elite talent around that, right? For the second time in 3 years, Burrow's season was cut short because of injury, as he missed 9 games last year. Weeks 3 through 12 with a turf toe. He returned to throw 15 touchdown passes in the last 6 games, which was second in the league in that span, averaging about 37 yards per game. Or sorry, it's 37 attempts per game and a 360 attempt pace, which would have been over 17 games. Okay, he's going to need all of that for a shot at a top five fantasy season this season, because he doesn't simply add much into the rushing upside or the rushing production. At last year, Burrow at least reversed a 3-year trend of not throwing downfield. He finished ranked 15th with 10% of his attempts going at least 20 yards downfield. His first time in double digits since 2021. He still didn't light up the downfield, though. His average target depth was only 7 yards, which was ranked second, leaving him with a mediocre mark of 7 yards per attempt at 19. So I think the offense isn't really going to change much. I mean, Joe Burrow should see copious amounts of attempts. No team has passed more often since Zach Taylor took over in the Bengals in 2019, which is 62% of the time. Joe Burrow is slinging that thing. That is a crazy number. Again, the receiving weapons help, naming Jamar Chase, T. Higgins, Trace Brown, while the tight end room may again be the committee led by Mike Gesicki. But again, that it works for Joe. He knows these guys. He's worked with them for years. Better health alone returns Burrow to potential top 5 status for fantasy, but probably as a starter, for me, I think he's a top option. These are some of the things that other podcasts and other analysts are saying. I have him in a top 7. I'm still putting him in that elite category. I do think that, however, he does top out at top 3 because of the rushing production that Allen, Lamar, Jalen, Jayden, that these guys can that we talked about. Next guy we can talk about. Okay, and this guy we're going to talk about a little bold take later. Now, I know some Bears fans that would be happy. But we're going to have Caleb Williams sliding up into that elite quarterback 1 status this year. Okay, we're going to have him in the top 8. I really do think this is a breakout year for Caleb Williams. Ben Johnson, year 2. Ben Johnson obviously came in year 1 and made wonderful changes. I mean, they were night and day difference. The Bears retooled the entire coaching staff and offensive line last season to help the second-year quarterback, leading Chicago to the playoffs while he finished quarterback 5 in fantasy. Could have been better. The Bears' 28 drops really deprived Williams of at least 400 yards, which was most in the league, and kept him from becoming the first Chicago quarterback with the curse of the 4,000 yards in a season. Williams also struggled with the accuracy, as he was a known guy for throwing a perfectly placed laser only to sail the next throw. So got to get a little more consistency down this year. His on-target percentage was a league low at 65%, leaving him second to last with only a 58% completion percentage. So again, we get up into Drake May numbers. I mean, we're talking quarterback 1 fantasy numbers. Williams at least threw downfield a good clip, ranked 13th, which helped his yardage, and he took an incredible 44th fewer sacks compared to his rookie year. So retooling that offensive line, redoing the whole coaching staff definitely helped with the fact that they obviously needed, more protection for Caleb Williams. I think he still remains one of the best league scramblers when he's outside of the pocket. They obviously lost DJ Moore. They lost Zacchaeus in free agency. They only added Khalif Raymond and third-round pick Xavier Thomas. This is where my concern is. They didn't really do anything to replace what Caleb Williams had last year. Fortunately for him, though, I think this room for Winze, Luther Burden, and Colston Loveland to basically step up to the plate and say, this is why you drafted us, right? It's an excellent situation for a young quarterback to build repertoire with these guys, cement himself as a high-end fantasy starter, and if he can get those accuracy metrics closer, I'm telling you, we're looking at some serious talent here in the fantasy world. So, number nine we're going to talk about is Bo Nix. Bo Nix. I mean, 2 elite quarterback 1s in this tier. Bo Nix being one of those, right? New toys. And every kid loves some new toys, but let me tell you, an NFL quarterback really loves some new toys. Bo Nix getting Jalen Waddle, right? I think that's a huge weapon. Cortland Sutton is still there. You still have R.J. Harvey, Marvin Mims and Troy Franklin taking the wide receiver snaps. I mean, these guys were taking wide receiver 1 snaps, you guys. This is the thing for Bo Nix. I do have him at 9. Nix finished 7 in fantasy last season, mostly driven by the volume as he led the league with 669 dropbacks and 612 attempts. Nearly 71% of his passes went less than 10 yards downfield, ranked 5th in that. But despite all of the short throws, let's not focus on that, his completion rate was only 63%, guys, which was ranked 24th. Okay? He finished 28th in yards per attempt at 6.4. All of those dropbacks led to 35 scrambles, which was ranked 10th in the league. Okay? Definitely helped the rushing totals. But relying on volume over efficiency is not usually the sustainable fantasy path, right, for young quarterbacks. That said, Nix was also quarterback 7 in 2024. Okay, and there's no question that Coach Sean Payton, short passing game, it served Drew Brees well in his later New Orleans years, right? Perhaps Jalen Waddle, the new acquired, can help Nick stretch the field despite his average arm strength. I don't think that Nick's really has this big cannon. Waddle and Cortland Sutton, that's a heck of a wide receiver duo to look out to. And then again, Troy Franklin, Pat Bryant, last year's rookie, Marvin Mims, really all competing for those 3 and 4 spots. Nix is expected to be healthy week 1 after the ankle in the division playoffs, but his progress needs to be more closely monitored. Okay. I don't really think that it's going to be physical limitations, but minor physical limitations would be worrisome for a quarterback whose fantasy value has relied on taking a huge number of dropbacks. If he misses a game or two, or he they're relying on more on the running game, and he takes out of that picture, Bo Nix's reliability is the fact that he drops back so much. So again, what could we be looking at with that? I don't see that transpiring, being that they just got Jalen Waddle. I think that Bo Nix is going to be unleashed necessarily. So I do have him in those elite quarterback 1 rankings. I do have him in the top 10 finish this year. To round out our top 10, it's going to be Justin Herbert. Really simply put, an efficient floor with occasional spikes. And, to touch more on Herbert finished quarterback 10 last season. Really thanks to an unexpected rushing production, in my opinion. He was second among quarterbacks with a career high 498 in the rushing department, most of which came from scrambling while he was under heavy duress last season. The Chargers' offensive line was injured and ineffective, for sure, leading to an incredible 32 line changes as Herbert was pressured on a league-high 43% of dropbacks and was 54 times ranked 3rd. The Chargers now anticipate turning their weakness into a strength necessarily. Rashawn Slater and Joe Alt will both be on track back for week 1. The interior line may also improve. Thanks to, I think they signed Taylor Badaz. I think that's how you say his name. Center that played in Washington. 2nd round picks. Jake Slaughter is a pretty decent pick there. If things go well for the team, Herbert will trade some of last year's scramble yards, I'm sure, for more passing production. I think that, Mike McDaniel even coming in here, change up the blocking, and the blocking upgrade could help Herbert quite a bit. The play car should put the strong arm in Herbert. Let's not compare him to Bo Nix. Like I think Justin Herbert's arm is light years. Pre-snap motion, play action. I think an improved running game will help create space for these wide receivers. I think you guys are going to see a different offense in Denver this next year. Obviously still have Ladd McConkey, Quentin Johnson, Trey Harris, second year. I don't think the weapons are the problem. I think it was more of the offensive line last year, and I'd be intrigued to see how that improves this year. But we have Justin Herbert finishing out the top 10, which is the elite quarterback ones. Now, 11 through 18, we'll talk about strong starters. Okay, so these are guys that, if these are your guys' quarterback ones, they're still strong options. They're just not the best options, the elite options. Number 11. Boy, I'm about to make a lot of people mad on this one. We'll talk about this in the bold takes as well. Look, I'm not taking away from Patrick Mahomes. Not taking anything away from the guy. He's probably, arguably, the best quarterback in real life football, right? The real life king, as the current NFL stars, if you will. That's not what we're talking about, guys. We're talking about fantasy football. This is a different world. This is a different realm. Okay? And Patrick Mahomes in fantasy has always been capped. Okay, a couple of details on this. Obviously last year was cut short, week 15, ACL, LCL tear. That ended really a major bounce back in fantasy. Okay, after finishing 2024 as the quarterback 12. He was quarterback 11 last year through he played only 14 games, but through those 14 games, he was quarterback 11. He was, he had some improvement for sure. He rushed for 422 yards and 5 touchdowns, were both career highs. Second, he threw deep more often than he had in recent years, and a 5-year high at 11% of his attempts went at least 20 yards downfield, which was ranked 8th. His average target depth rose to 7.8 yards, also a 5-year high, resulting in 7.1 yards per attempt, a 3-year high. Rushing production already figured to regress this year. I don't see him rushing for another 400 yards and 5 touchdowns. And that's now a near guarantee after Mahomes is his knee, right? And then sign Super Bowl MVP Kenneth Walker. I think, in my opinion, with the fewer rushing attempts and extra risk for some missed games there, Mahomes will need to stretch the field even more often and more successfully in order to outperform even the reduced ADP from this year. Average draft position for the newcomers. The dink and dunk approach might work fine for Kansas City, but it won't add up for fantasy managers when Mahomes is scrambling and doesn't have an elite group of pass catchers. Okay, it's also not certain he'll be ready for week 1. Do I imagine he will be? Probably. It's Mahomes. He played in the Super Bowl against the Eagles with an injury. I mean, supposedly. I think he'll be ready week 1. Okay. To the surprise of many, the Chiefs haven't upgraded Mahomes' receiving weapons. Hollywood Brown left. Rashee Rice is dealing with his own problems again. Xavier Worthy, is he really a wide receiver 1? Not in my opinion. Tyquan Thornton, Travis Kelce, who's aging. I don't think it sets a lot of room for success for Patrick Mahomes. Now, again, in real life football, Patrick Mahomes finds a way to get it done. We're not talking about real life football, folks. We're talking about fantasy football. Welcome to the Marshall experience. Number 12, right? And this is another bold take that I think is going to tickle some feathers later. Jackson Dart at number 12. An upside pick of 2026. Is it a breakout year for him? Maybe Neighbors can get a full year of health. However, a little sneak peek into our bold take, I do think he will be the most overdrafted quarterback this year in fantasy. So, to touch a little bit more on that, I think last year went well for him. He was named the starter by week 4. He finished quarterback 13 in fantasy despite starting just 12 games. I think the unexpected rushing production really bolstered his value, ranking top 3 among quarterbacks in both rushing yards at 487 and touchdowns at 9. Okay, the rookie was quick to run under pressure. 10% scramble run rate, which was ranked 2nd. And he didn't shy away from contact either. It was the ideal approach for fantasy production last year. And until Dart missed 2 games mid-season with a concussion, I think that he was checked for head injuries and concussion issues a few other times. But Dart still figures to try to get plenty of rush attempts relative to the other quarterbacks that we're talking about. The bigger question for me is Jackson Dart's passing game. Okay, where Dart averaged just 189 yards on 28 attempts last year, and just his. Okay, he threw 10 plus yards downfield at a good clip, which was ranked 10th at 34%, but just completed just under 40% of those throws, which was almost dead last. Struggling to connect with the subpar wide receivers after Malik Neighbors tore his ACL in Dart's first start, which was pretty rough for the group. The receiving core will, I think, improve in a hurry if Neighbors returns healthy, right? And to also help Malachi Fields, John Harbaugh being the new coach, Isaiah Likely, Darnell Mooney. Things look a lot better for Jack this year than they did last. I think the coach, I think the comfortability will kind of him relevant. Again, quarterback through 12 starts. I think quarterback 12 is a comfortable one for me right now. New coach, new system. I think by year 2, we really could see a huge, huge year from Don Harbaugh and Jackson Dart if done right. Okay, next guy we'll talk about here at number 13, Trevor Lawrence. Okay, Trevor Lawrence. And a lot of these guys we're not going to go as in depth about outside the top 18. But that 13, Trevor Lawrence really is my bounce back candidate this year. Okay, they've actually here lately apparently rumored to enter the A.J. Brown sweepstakes. And it could be Brian Thomas Jr. in second for A.J. Brown. As an Eagles fan, I don't necessarily hate that at all. But if that happens for Trevor Lawrence, obviously I think that his value does go up a little bit. But the positive news for Lawrence is he stayed healthy all last season. I think he really capitalized on his new coach, Liam Cohen's system, which we had talked about a little bit last year. Obviously, he was coming from Tampa. I think that he used his legs to post the most productive season out of this 5 years career. He was good for a quarterback 4 finish. And most of his passing stats were similar to those from his last healthy season in 2023. Only this time, he had 29 touchdown passes, 8 more, and 9 rushing scores, which was 5 more than his previous career highs. Those are both now new career highs, obviously. those scores aren't necessarily destined for major regression either, in my personal opinion. The red zone touchdown pass rate bounced back to near league average in 2025. And all 5 of his rushing scores last season came on designed runs inside the 10-yard line. Okay. Lawrence also threw downfield more often than expected in Cohen's screen-heavy offense. We were kind of wrong about that, right? We were like Tampa Bay, a lot of running backs, screen offense. We were wrong about that. We joined the crowd on that. 37% of his attempts traveled at least 10 yards on the field, the 4th highest rank in the league. Lawrence threw 15 touchdown passes on those passes, and it would have been more if not for the league high marks in both total drops at 36 and drops on passes thrown 10-plus yards downfield at 18. Okay, the Jaguars didn't do much to address the internal improvement. Again, Brian Thomas right now. Parker Washington was a big highlight last year. And Jacoby Myers. Okay. Travis Hunter apparently is expected to play more defense. They also lost running back Trevor Etienne, which is a buddy of Lawrence's. They replaced him with Chris Rodriguez, which I'm not a fan of. Obviously, sharing the backfield with Bashul Tutin. Neither has much experience catching passes. That's where my problem is. Doesn't make sense. Chris Rodriguez doesn't necessarily replace Travis Etienne. He doesn't at all. Nevertheless, okay, Lawrence is a good bet for at least low-end quarterback 1 production, which is why he's in the strong starters. With potential for much more that if his goal line rushing production continues and his receivers cooperate in the dropping department. Number 14, Dak Prescott. Dak Prescott, volume still matters, and that's basically how I'm going to describe that because it does. Did miss 9 games in 2024. Prescott stayed healthy last season. Finished quarterback 6 for the 3rd time in his career and hitting 30 touchdown passes for the 4th time. Wasn't just good health that propelled Prescott, though. It was also, again, the hefty volume. Prescott was 2nd in the league with a career-high 600 pass attempts, posting a 72.7 on-target percentage, ranked 13th, and a 67 percentage, ranked 12th. Pairing George Pickens and CeeDee Lamb probably gave, Prescott 2 playmaker wideouts, obviously. And they both cleared 1,000 yards while ranking top 6 in receiving yards per game. Prescott often needed pinpoint passes to find his star wideouts. Okay, as Dallas pass catchers surprisingly ranked 32nd in open percentage at 40%, 28th in separation at 3.2 yards, and 29th in dropped passes at 26. Prescott finished the season with a 8.3 yard average target depth and a 7.6 yards per attempt, both ranked 10th. Okay. Obviously, the wide receiver duo is back this year as quality tight ends Jake Ferguson, the rusher Tay Williams, and then Ryan Flournoy, number 3. The offensive line job to keep the pressure off of Prescott being ranked 14th returns intact. If realistically, I think I have him ranked higher than 14. If he doesn't, if all those problems are fixed, right? The drops, the open percentage, the separation issue. It all plays a part. It absolutely all plays a part. And these things affect the quarterback just as much as they will the wide receiver. Number 15, Brock Purdy from San Francisco. I think the Kyle Shanahan offense, simply put, keeps him fantasy relevant. Okay. Purdy was limited to 9 games last season because of the shoulder and toe injuries. A 3-game stretch following the 49ers' Week 14 bye accounted for 41% of his passing yards and 11 of his 20 touchdowns. In his other 6 games, he averaged just 212 in the passing department and had almost as many interceptions as touchdown passes, 9-8 ratio. Purdy led the league in on-target percentage, however, at 78% and was third in completion percentage at 70. Kind of seems like Purdy's not the problem. Some of that's a fact that didn't really get to stretch the field. 7.8 average target depth, which was ranked 19th. Nearly 2/3 of his attempts went less than 10 yards downfield. A lot of check downs to McCaffrey, right? 8.8% went at least 20 yards, which was ranked 23rd. He didn't get much help in that regard from his receivers. Juwan Jennings was now a Minnesota Viking. Ricky Pearsall was hobbled by a knee injury much of last season. What is the Brandon Ayuk story, right? Purdy's usual game plan of generating big plays from his work over the middle didn't really work either. Yards after catch accounted for just 40% of his yard last at 32nd. Again, we just said the 49ers let Jennings walk this offseason to the Vikings. They signed veterans Mike Evans and Christian Kirk, however. Evans is coming off an injury-plagued season last year and will be 33 by week 1. So we're not going to get too excited about that. Great addition, not taking anything away from Mike Evans. I've always been a big Mike Evans fan. But you're 33 going to a new offense. I kind of would have him probably ranked a little bit higher, still being at Tampa with Baker. Kirk is no better than a wide receiver 3 at any point in his career, and that's been a proven point. What's more, tight end George Kittle is uncertain for the start of the season, okay, after tearing his Achilles in the playoffs. The 49ers may need an early impact from their rookie wideout, Deshaun Stribling. And counting on the first pick in the second round. Again, we've talked about him a few times, 4.36 speed. I think, if anything else, Purdy still has Christian McCaffrey to dump it all off to, and then Trent Williams protecting his blind side while Kyle Shanahan's drawing up plays with an aging offense that is begging for production. So, I'll say the same thing I say about San Francisco every year. Barring injury, I like it. But for some reason, I don't know if they're cursed. Shout out to Dan Housen. I don't know if they're cursed. I don't know if, just an injury bug, what's in the water. I don't know. But San Francisco struggles to stay healthy. Number 16, Baker Mayfield. My personal opinion, underrated weekly production for Baker Mayfield, right? Finished as a quarterback 4 in 2024. He did regress massively last season, finishing at quarterback 12. He did lose more than 800 yards and 15 passes. So that's big gap. I mean, that's a really big gap from quarterback 4 to quarterback 12. First-time offensive coordinator. He just lost Liam Cohen, who is a now top young coach in the NFL. It's tough when you lose your coach. First coordinator, Josh Gizzard, I really skewed the screen game from the Liam Cohen-led offense for downfield shots. Okay, which really backfired when injuries began to pile up for Mayfield and the Buccaneers. In the first 6 games, averaged 257 passing yards with 12 touchdowns and only had one interception. I thought he was on the path to let it happen, right? To let it ride. I mean, I thought he was in for another top 5 finish. In the last 12 games, Mayfield averaged 196 yards with a 14-10 touchdown to interception ratio as a bicep injury on his throwing arm, a shoulder injury on his on his other arm, and knee and oblique injuries really impacted all of his throwing. What's more to that is Mike Evans missed 9 games and played 14 snaps in another. Chris Godwin missed 5 midseason games, and the Bucs replaced Gizzard this offseason with a new OC, Zach Robinson, who has had really mixed results in Atlanta. The hope is that his background with Sean McVay, right, a la Liam Cohen, will pay off for Mayfield. Evans departs in free agency, obviously goes to San Francisco, as we just talked about. However, I think this literally leaves, Godwin and Emeka fighting over the number 1. I think it should be Emeka's. I think Ibuka really did have an up and down rookie year. Really started out really well. And then again, like Baker, the injuries happened. He was double teamed. It was kind of easier to cover the one guy that he was throwing it to, right? Jalen McMillan, who missed much of last season with an injury. Bucky Irvin is a great wide receiver out of the backfield. Kenneth Gainwell. Love Kenneth Gainwell as a wide receiver as out of the backfield, but replacing Evans is going to be an issue. Health seems like the biggest factor here, including with the offensive line, which was absolutely destroyed by injuries last season as well. In my opinion, Mayfield has top 10 fantasy potential, but he enters this season with some uncertainty for me, which is why I have him at 16. Number 17 is the, let's see here. It is the indoor dome king himself, Jared Goff. At number 17, Jared Goff finished quarterback 9 in fantasy last year. His 3rd consecutive season in the top 10, as he ranked 2nd in the league in both passing yards and touchdowns. Goff has to work harder than most because he doesn't throw the deep ball much and doesn't run at all. In my opinion, weak-armed Goff ranked 31st in downfield rate at 28.8 yard average target depth, and that was ranked 30th. He's rushed for just 2 touchdowns in 5 years. Both were in 2023. He benefited last year from a league high 2,500 yards after the catch, guys. That was by a mile to the next team. This obviously helped his yards per attempt, which was ranked 6th. Without the wide receivers or Gibbs or Laporta, whoever was doing the work, it's not looking so hot. Offensive coordinator now, Johnny Morton, lost play calling duty midseason, was replaced this offseason by Drew Petzing, formerly of Arizona, I believe, and not very impressive in my opinion. Petzing is a close friend of the former OC Ben Johnson, so maybe some Johnson-like play calling, maybe. The Giants are kind of hoping for there, right? The best thing going for Goff is the surrounding talent, and I think that's pretty self-explanatory. Wide receivers, Amon-Ra, Jameson Williams, were teammates in the top 10 receiving yards last season. Wideout, I think, is going to have a breakout year. Isaac Tesla is coming off a promising rookie year.
Healthy span. Sam Laporta will provide a top-tier tight end target with a healthy season. Jahmyr Gibbs, big play threat, makes the play action effective. And he's an electric backfield target at 77 receptions last year. Lions remade their offensive line, obviously, after losing their Frank Ragnow to retirement. The 17th overall pick in the draft, Blake Miller, is supposed to start at right tackle, pushing Penei Sewell to left tackle. And then they signed Cade Mays to be the upgraded center. Golf needs a lot to go right to be in the top 10 again, in my opinion. A lot. And that's where I have him at the team. 18, Daniel Jones. I get a lot of hate for this one, but when healthy, guys, was one of the most top talents in fantasy football. And let's break it down. In his first season in Indianapolis last year, Jones was on pace for 4,000 passing yards and 25 touchdowns before tearing his Achilles. By fantasy points per game, he ranked quarterback 13. Now, bolstered by a strong efficiency and a few quarterback sneak touchdowns early in the season. Jones was 5th in the league in both on-target and completion percentage, giving him the 4th highest yards per attempt at 8.1. He went downfield at a decent rate, too, with his 8.2-yard average target depth, and his percentage of 10-plus yard attempts was at 32%, ranking 14th. He didn't run as much as his New York Giant days, though he did have a career-high 5 rushing touchdowns, which I think we could see potentially be beat this year. And that could be scaled back even more this season because of the injury. I mean, I don't think it's going to be scaled back. I think that you could the same production, if not 6. Even with the injury, it's a tough area to come back from. But I think that I have a really good feeling about it. I do. Achilles injuries can impact a performance long after a player gains medical clearance, which is understandable. I think that it will be detrimental to scrambling. I don't think they will affect his touchdown production. I guess I should explain it like that. The Colts, though, were obviously more than confident enough in the guy, giving him a 2-year, $88 million contract this offseason. Also traded Michael Pittman so that way Alec Pierce could step up in the wide receiver department. Josh Downs now gets a shot too, and Tyler Warren really gets to emerge as one of the young tight ends. And then obviously Jonathan Taylor gets to continue to be a top running back in the league. With Jones' own rushing impact likely to still be there, I think that for me, I think that he finishes out that strong start in single quarterback leagues. Maybe he falls down that. In 2 quarterback leagues, I definitely have him up there with that potential of being in the super flex. So we're just going to round this out, right? And we're going to get into our bold takes for the week. 19, we got C.J. Stroud. C.J. Stroud had a really off year last year. And as much as I trust that Houston defense, I do not trust C.J. Stroud. Jordan Love, another guy I just don't trust yet. Romeo Doubs exited the building. Davion Wicks is now on the Eagles. Not a big Jayden Reed fan. Not a big Jayden fan when it comes to fantasy production. Matthew Golden had 1 touchdown last year, and that came in the playoff game. What does that year 2 look like for him? Just regressed in last year. So all this surrounding Jordan Love, I'm just not a fan. Christian Watson, just, you know what I mean? Health. That's all I can say. 21, Bryce Young. I could probably, honestly, in this fact, switch Bryce Young and CJ Stroud and put Bryce Young at 19. 19 through 32 guys are our streamers and our matchup. These are guys basically that if they have a great matchup, play them. If you guys have a quarterback on a bye, play them. Otherwise, they're going to be on your bench. Bryce Young, I love the Tech McMillan, the Coker, and Chris Braswell, who we've talked about. I love the wide receiver room. Running back room could use some work for me. Dowdle leaving is going to hurt him. But I do trust Bryce Young probably more than CJ Stroud and Jordan Love, which is unfair to this ranking. So Sam Darnold. So I do have now that I've seen it, I do have Sam Darnold at 18 above Daniel Jones. And the reason I switched those is because of the level of talent, right? Sam Darnold, I'm not his biggest fan. Even though he won the Super Bowl, it wasn't on him. JSN is an absolute freak. Kenneth Walker had a career year. Shaheed was returning kicks, and the defense was insane, which is now decimated. But I think that's what eats into Sam Darnold is the lack of the defense now is that left. Kenneth Walker being gone, what does this Jadarian Price experiment really work out to be? I just think that we see a down year from Sam Darnold compared to what we've seen last year. Number 23, the newly signed Pittsburgh Steeler Aaron Rodgers. DK Metcalf. Now I got Michael Pittman. You got Warren. I think Rodgers is kind of set up for a decent year. So I have him inside the top 25. Tyler Shuck. Have him got Jordan Tyson in this year's draft. I think needs to be some connection issues that needs to be worked out. They're brand new to each other. It's not necessarily an issue. It's just something that needs to be worked out. And they need to be on the same page for him to have a top 20 fantasy year for me. Kyler Murray. So we will talk about this. And the reason I put this at 25, because I don't know who's going to be the star. I don't know if it's going to be JJ. I don't know if it's going to be Kyler Murray because you don't know it because it hasn't been announced. It could be either one. If it is Kyler Murray, I do see this ranking going higher because of the rushing ability and the rushing upside. JJ McCarthy, I think this is kind of where we're sitting at. Obviously Justin Jefferson, Addison, now you had Juwan Jennings, Hawkinson, Aaron Jones, Jordan Mason. I don't think the weapons are the question. I think the quarterback is the question. And we'll see if KOC finds his answer this year with Kyler Murray or JJ McCarthy. 26, the new Dolphin, Malik Willis. I just, a lot of rushing upside here, I think. I'm just more worried about it being in Miami. I'm worried about the lack of weapons. They have Devon Achane. I just don't see, that playing out well from Malik Willis just yet until we can get some wide receivers healthy and drafted. 27, I got Kirk Cousins and or Fernando Mendoza. The reason I have this ranking here is because, they're pretty much going to split, right? Kirk Cousins is going to start some weeks. I think Fernando Mendoza will start some others. Not a lot of production, right? Not a lot of starts for either one of those guys. Below that, in fact, I do have by the combination of value that Kirk Cousins and Mendoza have. I do have these quarterbacks below them in the bottom 5. Michael Penix or Tua in Atlanta. Again, where does that quarterback battle lead us? I'd actually probably trust Penix more than I would Tua. And that's just because of comfortability in the offense. 29, Cam Ward. I just don't think there's been enough done. I like Carnell Tate. I like the pickup. If they take Jeremiah Love, I think that this pick, I think it takes a lot off Cam Ward's back. But unfortunately, they missed out on that. 30. Shadur Sanders / Deshaun Watson / Dylan Gabriel / whoever. I think it should be Sanders. I think Sanders deserves a full shot. I think Watson lost his shot a couple of years ago, and Gabriel lost his last year. So, not to touch on that too much, but again, you got Judy, you got Casey Conception, Denzel Boston, Junkins, Fanning. The weapons are there. I think it all just needs to come together. I think it all needs to be a cog. And I think looking at one more year to really, Shadur could, if he starts 17 games, guys, he could have a breakout year. I'm thinking like top 15 in fantasy. I would consider that a breakout year for Shadur. 31, Jacoby Brissett out of Arizona. Hasn't even shown up to OTAs. Could it be the Carson Beck show? So maybe we just put Arizona quarterback here, but yeah, just not with it. Not with it. At this point, maybe Kyler Murray was the better option. I don't trust the, yes, Trey McBride. I think Jacoby Brissett is definitely the better option. The gunslinger, the volume, right? As we talked about volume a few times, Trey McBride, Marvin Harrison, Michael Wilson, new Jeremiah Love. But again, I feel like they're going to rely on Jeremiah Love heavily this year because they are so unsure of that quarterback spot. Last guy I have on here, number 32, love you, the Jets, Geno Smith. Get him out of the league. Don't draft him. Don't even have him on your roster. Very, 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 very bad. Very bad quarterback. Here we are going to talk about right, bold takes. 8 of them. Okay, 8 of them. We're going to get into these bold takes. Let me say this with the utmost respect. Okay. If A.J. Brown goes to the if he goes to the Patriots, let's say, like everybody's rumored to be, right? Again, we already talked about Drake May, guys. Drake May last year was fantasy relevant, really relevant in that elite category with what he has. You add A.J. Brown into that, it shoots you through the roof. Okay. My bold take that this year, Drake May finishes as the overall number 1 quarterback in fantasy. Okay, a lot of analysts are already pushing May into their elite tier after his year 2 jump. But again, if the Patriots offense improves even slightly from what he was given last year, which you just replaced the Dobbs with Diggs, I get that, but you've got to get another option, right? We've got to get another option in the Patriots room. The next bold take. We will talk about Patrick Mahomes. And we were told we were going to talk about this, right? Patrick Mahomes, again, is going to disappoint relative to the ADP. It's just going to happen. Like I said, still elite in real life football. Still elite. But in fantasy football, it's a different world, folks. And fantasy football has shifted more to the rushing upside. Allen, Lamar, Hurts, Daniels. Right? He just doesn't provide the simple cheat code weeks that you see in fantasy football. Third bold take. And again, we talked about this one a little bit too. Jackson Dart becomes the most overdrafted quarterback in fantasy. Say that kindly. I just think that he's going to be the guy that everybody's going to be like, wow, why did I take him so high? I mean, there's just a lot of questions. Malik Neighbors, what does he do coming back from injury? Is Cam Scatabo okay from all the head injuries? Is Dart okay from all the head injuries? You know, they really haven't done much to help the guy out. They've helped the defense out quite a bit. They drafted him a tackle. Get that? Seems a lot of people wanted Caleb Downs, though. So, the fourth bold take here. Caleb Williams enters ours and should be everybody else's elite fantasy tier. And let me explain why. The Ben Johnson effect already came and went, folks. The improved structure on top of the Ben Johnson effect, year 2, that could finally create the fantasy monster that people expected coming out of college. It's just the epitome of it. Number 5, Bo Nix will outscore Patrick Mahomes this year in fantasy. Now, not necessarily fantasy points. I'm talking about yards, touchdowns. I'm talking about it all. Outscoring them all. Okay, now this one sounds a little off the wall, maybe, until you realize when it comes to fantasy, when it comes to real life football, okay, the rushing, the efficiency, it's more than the real life greatness when we're talking about fantasy, right? We've talked about that a few times. Sean Payton could arguably quietly create another top 10 fantasy quarterback that looks a lot like Drew Brees. Right? I'm just saying. Jalen Waddle, Cortland Sutton, then you got Mims and Brian, Troy Franklin. I mean, he's loaded, guys. He's loaded. Number 6. Kyler Murray becomes this year's league-winning value. Whoa. What did Marshall just say? Yeah. Kyler Murray becomes this year's league-winning value. Okay? If healthy, people tend to forget Kyler Murray can still rush for 600-plus yards and has done it several times in his career. That production alone, on top of passing production, instantly creates a top 8 quarterback. Kyler Murray might be something to look into, guys. I'm just saying. Number 7, CJ Stroud, as we talked about, I had him outside my top 15. I think he falls outside of the top 15, and I think that he continues to not necessarily degrade, but I think that he floats around a top 20 performance. The lack of rushing upside is becoming a bigger issue in fantasy every season. Okay, he needs these monster numbers, these monster passing numbers to be able to keep up. The last bold take of the night. Okay, Tyler Show becomes a legit quarterback 2 sleeper. And let me explain that. Quarterback 2, meaning you have 2 quarterbacks, you can start 2 quarterbacks. That second quarterback, I mean, it could be, you know what I mean? You got 12 teams, right? Well, the first 12 are going to be starters. The next 12 are going to be quarterback 2s. If everybody drafts 2 quarterbacks like they should. Well, I had Tyler Show ranked at number 24. And I think that he could be a sleeping option to definitely step up into that top 18 role. Okay, the Saints offense has quietly become fantasy-friendly situations for the upside passing volume. Again, Alvin Kamara getting older. Keandre Miller, is he the answer? They just got Travis Etienne. All pass-catching running backs. Olave, Jordan Tyson, Vale. It spells success for me. We're going to go through some of these comments before we get out of here. Joshua said respect I think Philly is the only city. I think Philly is the only city who believes in Hurts. No, brother. I think that I just don't want another Carson Wentz situation. Right? I don't want a Carson Wentz situation. It sounds like we had some audio. I apologize about that, folks. I do apologize about that. Surprise Bills aren't interested in AJ. Yeah, I don't think we would trade him to an AFC. I mean, I guess the Patriots are an AFC contender. I guess I can't say that anymore. Maybe they just don't have the what we're looking for. You know what I mean? Like maybe they're not willing to give up that 28 first. Maybe they're not willing to give up that 27 second. And then they obviously can't afford his contract because I agree that they got fleeced by DJ Moore. Joshua said, "I'm a Pats fan and I like Hurts. Is he a top 5?" In what aspect? Are we talking about passing yards? Because no. Are we talking about winning? Yes. Are we talking about leadership? Yes. Are we talking about rushing? Yes. It depends on who you're talking to and what situation we're talking about, right? Because everybody ranks everybody different because I don't. I rank on winning, leadership. The ultimate goal is to win, guys. I don't give a shit if he goes out there and throws for 170 yards. As long as he throws for 2 touchdowns and no picks and doesn't win a ball game. That's what I want. I could care less about some gaudy stats. Joshua said, "I won my fantasy league last year and had Lamar. He did nothing to help me win, so I switched to Drake May and rode that to the ship." Yeah, absolutely. Good choice there. Good choice. Again, as we talked about, dealt with some injuries last year, right? Definitely this year is out Isaiah Likely. They drafted some wide receivers for help. So we'll see how that goes and with them. So, guys, I appreciate it. We've got through the comments here. I do apologize for the audio issues. I'm not sure what there is transpiring there, but we will get that looked into. And I deeply appreciate everybody tuning in. Next Wednesday, we will be live again at 6 p.m. Central. Next week, we will be covering the same thing, but different position. We're going to be doing running backs, 32 running backs, and we're also going to try to make some bold takes. So stay tuned for those, and we'll see who's going to come true and which ones were really too bold for our takes. So I appreciate everybody tuning in. I appreciate everybody checking us out. And looks like we had some good comments in the chat. Appreciate that as well. Make sure you guys follow, subscribe, Sports Lounge Media as well. Go check them out. And we will see you next Wednesday at 6 o'clock. Have a good night, guys, and have a good weekend.